Hey guys, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Know the Novel Part 3 kind of questionnaire, along with just giving an update on my writing process since my last NaNoWriMo week 3 video. I apologize I didn't do week 4, mainly because nothing happened. I barely did writing. I think I wrote like 2 days that week, so I just decided to skip it. So this is kind of going to be my wrap up for NaNoWriMo, plus also just continuation of what I am going to be doing with this book that I'm writing, which, if you're not aware, I will put all the NaNoWriMo weekly videos that I've been doing, I'll put all those in the description in case you guys have missed them. But basically, I sort of kind of rewrote, edited the first part of the third book of my Courageously Chronicles series, which is a kind of new adult Christian fantasy series. I redid that for NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, which is where you write a novel, usually in a rough draft form. Mine's in a rough draft form, but that's not the part I worked on, for an entire month. So, I did that, and I'm going to go through these questions that my friend Christine has made on her blog. I'll leave a link to her blog down below in case you guys want to check that out. And basically this is her Know the Novel series, which is basically you just introduce the novel you're working on for National Novel Writing Month. And this is part 3, which is words written. So we're just gonna start with the first question, and that is, how did writing this how did writing this novel go all around? It was hard. It was really, really hard at first, because I had so much kind of like bad feelings around this book, because this was like the third or fourth time I had tried writing it, and over several years, and every time I ever tried it, I would just get too stressed out. I would stress myself out. I would put too much pressure on myself, and I quit having fun with it. So it just never worked. I always kind of got stalled out at certain points, and then I would just abandon it for months on end, and that's not a good thing, because I do want to finish this series. I do want to, finish my series, and also just, write with these characters and stuff, but I was getting too caught up in my own fear, so to speak. So yeah, it was really hard getting back into it. I tried to get into it with the mindset of, it's just a rough draft, it doesn't have to be perfect. And it was surprisingly very, very hard to get into that mindset. So yeah, it was very hard, but I managed to do it. So there's that. Question 2. Did it turn out like you expected or completely different? And how do you feel about the outcome? Well, for the most part, I was mainly working on stuff that already existed. So nothing really popped up that was different. I did add in a couple things that didn't exist before, and I did change some things, but overall it turned out like I expected, because most of it stayed the same. The different parts of it were I did eventually get to the point where I did like writing it. I did want to work on it, and that was a new feeling for me, especially for this book, because most of the time I ran away screaming from this book. So, it was a silent scream, but it was still screaming. But yes, so overall, I'm very happy with where I came out with this book, because now I want to write it and I enjoy it. So that is a good outcome, and I'm glad I pushed through with it. Okay, question 3. What aspect of the story did you love writing about the most? Characters, plot, setting, prose, etc. For me, it's usually the characters, which is part of the problem I was having with this book, was basically the characters didn't want to come out. They weren't acting like themselves, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me why. Mainly it's because I wasn't acting like myself in writing them, so how can I expect them to show up on their best behavior, or their worst behavior, depending on who they are, if I wasn't doing the same. So it was kind of a catch-22 situation, where I was the one kind of blocking everybody, and then they were all just like, what are you doing? We can't show up if you won't cooperate. So yes, also I really am enjoying where the story is going, because I've written further than NaNoWriMo. Obviously, I'm still working on this book, but I'm very interested to see where it's going, because already several things have changed. Not drastically, but enough that I'm like, I wonder what they have up their sleeves, these characters, because it's like they sort of am following my sort of outline of what I want to do next, but they're kind of doing it their own way. So I'm very interested to see where it goes from here. Question 4. What was your least favorite part? Well, initially it was writing it. Initially it was like getting up and working on it. That was my least favorite part. I would also say aspects of the plot, mainly because I changed things around, and I know I still have stuff in the book that I'm going to change eventually, because it's not going to stay that way, because it's mainly just not going to work that way. It's not going to stay that way. Things like that. It's just, I already know I'm going to change one part. I don't know how, but I already know I need to move one part up because it doesn't really make sense where it is. And it's just little things like that. But yeah, my least favorite part overall during NaNoWriMo was basically working on the thing, was getting myself to work on it. Because once I started working on it, I was usually fine, except for the rare day when it was like, I shouldn't have even bothered because I am not in the right headspace. But yeah, that was probably it. Question 5. What do you feel needs the most work? Well, the entire thing will need tons of work, especially by the time I'm done with it. It's not done yet, so it's kind of a little hard question to answer because it's not complete, but it's going to need a ton of work. The plot is probably going to need rearranged or even cut down. Some characters still don't quite sound like themselves, so I'm basically going to have to go back through and like tweak emotions and like how characters are responding to things, how they're responding to each other. Because right now, sometimes in certain scenes, they still seem a little flat. But I'm also just getting a feel for the story overall, and I usually enhance those things more. Also, the most work, I will also need to incorporate my main character Vienna's and Flynn's arcs into the story. Currently they don't have much of one, especially in the beginning portion, so I'm definitely gonna have to weave that into, and maybe by the time I'm done with this rough draft, I will have narrowed down exactly what their arcs are. So yeah, it's gonna need a ton of work, but it's not done yet, so I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay, question 6. How do you feel about your characters now? Who's your favorite, least favorite? Anyone surprise you? Give us all the details. How do I feel about my characters? Well, I love this cast of characters. I've been hanging out with them forever. I think I've mentioned this in several other videos before, but about my writing, but I've been hanging out with these characters for probably, I'm gonna say, over 10 years. These characters have been hanging out my head and taking up my life. And I love them for it. And I just love them. Let's see. Let me see if I can narrow it down. Who's my favorite? Honestly, at this point in time, I don't know. The one character I find it easy to get into his head is Flynn. He's one of my main characters. I don't know if that's just, I'm not quite sure why. It's always easy to get into his head, even though sometimes I'm not quite sure what he's going to do or something, but I always find his point of view very easy to write from. I don't know why, but he is definitely one of my favorite characters. Vienna would be my second one. Sometimes she's a little more difficult. Depends on if I'm being difficult at the time. But yeah, definitely Vienna and Flynn would be my favorite characters to write from because they're my main characters, so that's helpful if I hate writing them from. I also want to say, I can't say his name because it's a spoiler, but there is one character, he's so annoying and so rude, and yet I love writing him. I don't know why. I honestly have no idea why I love writing this character, but it's almost just like I can have zero filter with this character. It's like he can just say whatever, and I don't know why, but I find it slightly amusing. So far, my mom and my sister who have read the book do not like him, which is funny. But yeah, I don't know. I just like writing him. I guess he's just so unfiltered. It's kind of refreshing. I'm not really sure. I have no idea why. I like writing his dialogue and stuff. I have no clue. My least favorite. I don't know who my least favorite is. Yeah, I don't know. Just anyone who's not being who they're supposed to be when they come out all flat and stuff, and I'm like, who are you? You don't even sound like you. Yeah, and really no surprises in the character realm. Yeah, pretty much everybody's acting the same, but it's also the third book in a series, and pretty much the entire cast has been the same from book one, so it's reasonable that there's really no surprises. I haven't gotten into the part of the book where I start introducing new people. So, I mean, I've introduced some new people, but they're not giant players in the book, so yeah. Okay, question 7. What's your next plan of action with this novel? Continue to write it. I'm like 76 pages into this beast. It's going to be probably 500, 600 pages, if not more. I have no doubts. I'm not quite sure if I'm at the halfway point yet with this book. I've been saying that for a while because I'm not quite sure where the halfway point is. So I'm just going to write it, and my plan of action is just to write this book. To write it and to have fun with it and to just tell myself the story and get it out there, because that's the most important thing, because as a pants-tier discovery writer, which is what I am, I have to tell myself the story first. Like, I know certain things that will happen, but the rest of it just, I'd write by the seat of my pants, so it just comes. And yeah, I just need to get back into that mindset of I need to just write what comes to me and just be a co-creator with God in this process, because he's the one who gave me the story, so, you know, he's got all the answers. I just don't have them quite in my head yet. So, yep, plan of action, continue writing this book. Okay, question 8. If you could have your greatest dream realized for this novel, what would it be? Well, it's the 3rd book in a series, so this basically goes for the whole series, but I would love to publish them. And I hope to do that fairly soon. I have no concrete plans yet, because there's a lot of issues I have to go across, if that would even be a thing in the near future. But yes, I do hope to publish the series, which would include this book, fairly soon, hopefully. And if I really want to go crazy, I would love to see my books turned into a series of movies, good ones. Yeah, none of this crap stuff they're coming out with recently. But yeah, I would definitely really love to see it like epic, like Lord of the Rings level. You know, if we're gonna dream big, yeah, that's what I want, like a trio of movies, or maybe 4 if the 3rd book had to be split in half or something like that, of just Lord of the Rings-esque type movies. I would love that. Totally top tier dream. Probably will never happen, but totally, yeah. Okay, question 9. Share some of your favorite snippets. Okay, unlike last time when I did this, when I did the No Novel Part 2, I am going to actually share some with you. Bear in mind, these are all rough drafts, so a lot of it may change. I'm also going to say, if I say blank, they're not swearing. This is my indication that I am redacting something that is a spoiler, because I did not go through this and get rid of anything that's potentially a spoiler. So if I am reading it and I just say blank, that means I am removing something that's a spoiler. So that is why nobody's swearing, just so you know. Okay, so this first snippet is actually the first 2 paragraphs in the book. So we'll see how this goes. Darkness pressed in on all sides, tightening like a noose around Vienna, despite the weak, pink flare of the mineral torch in Sir Gawain's hand ahead. She took a deep breath for the 1000th time to hopefully calm her nerves, and gripped her bow tighter despite her fingers already being grafted to the smooth wood, stepping over various scattered picks and shovels that littered the mine tunnel floor. This was too much like Diabol's Mountain. Do we have to keep going in deep dark holes with only one way in and out and no light? Shane grumbled from somewhere behind her. You guys know how much I love dark, cramped spaces after all. No, Shane is one of my favorite characters because he is just totally, he's just totally funny. I just loved his humor. Anyways, the second snippet is, hey, Flynn rested a hand on her shoulder. We're going to find him. We're not too late despite how hopeless it looks. How do you know? Vienna whispered to the ground. Uncertainty overshadowed by strong determination came over him, leaked into her, because I won't let myself think any other way. Vienna closed her eyes and drew in a deep breath. She lifted her head to meet Flynn's gaze, his hazel eyes searching hers, as clear and stubborn as the set of his jaw. They had come too far to back down now, had come too far to give in to hopelessness, even if holding on to hope burned them in the end. It was easy to give in to fear and despair, so much harder to stand strong and fight. But fight they would, fight she would. Vienna stared into his eyes. Thank you. A small wrinkle creased between his eyes. For what? She smiled. For being you, my brave knight, and for always knowing what to say, exactly when to say it. It's a gift. Sorry, I gotta roll this down. Okay, third snippet. Vienna pressed linen on his hand to catch the leftover liquid, gripping his wrist to keep his arm still. Let me guess, the other hand looks the same. She raised an eyebrow at him, aware of the small smile playing on her lips. Flynn opened his eyes and lifted a shoulder, crooked grin emerging. Guilty. Did you really think I would slide on a rope one-handed? With you, I'm never sure what crazy thing you'll do next, but I'm always sure it will be life-threatening. That sounds like something Uncle told me once, Shane added. Guess we're more alike than we first thought, Flynn. We? Flynn raised an eyebrow. I don't remember thinking or saying that. You didn't, but I did, and since everything I say is fabulous, Vienna snorted. Since when? Since always, of course. Where have you been recently? Not living in your brain. Shane opened his mouth and raised a finger as if to argue, then shrugged. Good point. Anyways, we all know I'm fabulous, so whatever I say is fabulous too, right? Flynn shook his head. I'm not even sure what we're talking about anymore. Okay, I just included that because I just loved that part. Writing that part, just them being goofy together. Okay, fourth snippet. Options and ideas of how to get around George and his cronies alive raced through Flynn's brain, but he discarded nearly all of them as they all involved fighting or bolting in the most extreme manner that did not account for Adelaide's safety. Ready to die? The manic gleam grew brighter in George's eyes. Not particularly, no. Flynn gripped Adelaide in one arm tight to his chest and drew his sword with the other. He slowly sidestepped and George mirrored him, pulling away from the guard line. They half-circled each other, sizing each other up, each cautious of the other, yet not ready to give up their quest for blood and freedom. Always one with a snappy answer, George snarled, pure hatred glowing in his eyes. But you can't escape me, not here. There's no way out, and I'm done chasing you down. Okay, blank. His heartbeat kicked up. His is Flynn, just so you know. Kicked up as danger roared through him, screaming for him to bolt, run as fast as he could, get to Vienna as fast as possible, protect her. Flynn stopped short of exposing his back to the guards, eyes on George. I never asked you to chase me. Why don't you just leave me alone? Why? I'm not letting you get away with what you did to blank. You ruined everything, so I'm going to ruin you. George swiped at Flynn. Flynn parried his strike and skittered backward. An evil grin flared to life, and he licked his lips. There's no way out, so you might as well give up. You can't save her or yourself. You're trapped. I'm trying to include some action scenes in these snippets, but it's very hard to pick things in a third book that are not spoilers. Okay, this is the, I believe this is the fifth snippet. I can't believe I let you talk me into this, Kate growled as they crawled up the slimy, smelly garbage tunnel beneath the castle. The stone walls holding in the dank, gross smell that was giving Flynn a permanent headache. Hey, it could be worse, Shane piped up. Try living in Scatholfolk's castle. Way slimier than this place, and that was on the surface level. Not to mention, do you know how bad mold smells? I hate to say I agree with you, Vienna gagged. However did you come up with this place, Flynn? Last place they checked for a break-in. George always had me find these types of places when I was a boy because I was the smallest. Not to mention he'd rather have me do all the footwork of thieving if thieving didn't involve killing. Flynn silently thanked Tirana that he didn't have to wear the scholar's impossible robes while climbing up the slippery slope. All their disguises strapped to their backs. You know, I wish you didn't have all this insight, Cade griped. Then we wouldn't all end up smelling like something from the back end of some creature. I don't have a creature's name yet. I seriously don't want to know how you know that, Vienna said. Flynn twisted around to look past the others to a silent Israel bringing out the rear. You alright back there? I'll be better once I get out of here, Israel said wryly, shaking something stringy off his hand with a grimace. Give me mud and snow any day. Israel would rather deal with snow than this. We know we've hit the worst thing ever if snow is topping the list of things he'd rather deal with. Cade ribbed. Israel frowned at Cade as Vienna added, this is worse than cleaning chamber pots. Flynn winced. Sorry. Just as long as it gets us in and I don't question what I'm touching, I'll live. I'm sorry, that was just, I just loved that part because it was just totally off the wall that I came up with that, so yeah. Okay, this is the sixth and last, the sixth And last snippet. Okay, I can talk, I promise. Okay. Firefox didn't turn towards her or react in any visible way as she first patted Falcon that sat beside him, chattering in typical Keisha fashion, though the longer she talked and the less he reacted, a noticeable strain traced across her face. Flynn sighed and turned to watch Fiona talking to Bethany, Shane still mixing whatever he was fussing with to death. Why was everything so hard and filled with pain these days? Where could light and joy be even found anymore? I guess we just have to make whatever little pockets we can, he muttered to himself, drawing his sword, the smoke gray blade glinting in the sunlight even as it absorbed the same light. He shifted into middle guard and blew out a steady breath, letting his mind go quiet and steady as he shifted from middle to low, then high, swishing the blade in a rhythmic, almost soothing cadence. Maybe he couldn't help or do anything about the blank, or Firefox, or any of the 100 other problems they were facing, but he could still fight and protect those who were defenseless. He could still learn to use his blank to the best of his ability. It was all he had to offer. Okay. Those are all these snippets. I hope you liked them. Sorry I had to kind of remove some of the stuff that probably didn't make some of the sentences make sense, but I'm just trying to remove anything that could be considered a spoiler. So, alright. Question 10. Did you glean any new writing and or life lessons for writing this novel? Yes. Well, I don't know about life lessons, but I did glean writing lessons. Basically, it's just to, when you're writing a rough draft, just let go and have fun with it. Don't pressure yourself too hard and just make sure you're just doing what you can. I mean, if you're an outliner, like plotter type person, you probably have more of a detailed way of doing it. But even then, just have fun with it. Just don't pressure yourself to get it perfect the first time. Make all the correct decisions. That's what editing is for. We don't need to pressure ourselves into next year doing stupid things of, worrying that it's not good enough when it doesn't need to be good enough. It's a rough draft. It's stuff that, yeah, half of it's probably going to end up on the cutting room floor and you're going to have to start over. A lot of the stuff may stay the same. Some of it, you may change the entire story and scrap the whole thing. But even then, even if it's stuff that you wrote and it doesn't end up in the book, doesn't mean it was useless. It means, you tried hard doing what you were doing, and maybe doing that draft, even if you dumped the whole thing, maybe it was needed for you to figure out, hey, this is actually the story I'm trying to tell. And that is something I've been telling myself recently, just to have fun with this book, to invite God into the process and to just write and create this story and worry about the perfection details later, because the less I worry about the perfectionist details, the more I get stuff that I actually like. And like, for example, that last snippet I wrote that today. So, yeah, it's just, and I really like that point, and many of the things I shared I really enjoyed, and a lot of those scenes I was just having fun with it. Like the one discussion when they were just talking, and I really enjoyed it, and the garbage chute scene. I was just having fun with those scenes, and they turned out really, really well, and I really liked them, and that's why, because I was just writing, and I was just having fun with it and telling myself the story. And I think that's just the most important thing to remember is when you're writing a rough draft, just tell yourself the story first. Just have fun with it. If it ends up being trash, oh well, you learned something from it, and at least you did the dang thing. So, yeah, that is all for me, and that's kind of my wrap-up of National Novel Writing Month, plus also just continuing writing this book. I will, if you guys are interested, I will continue to do writing updates. I don't know how often, but I will definitely continue to let you in on the know of how I'm doing with this book. And yeah, that is pretty much everything. And yeah, let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought. And if you have any other opinions about writing, or maybe the snippets themselves, if you liked them or not. And yeah, I love talking with you guys, and I will say Merry Christmas, because I will be posting this video before Christmas, so I probably won't be doing any other videos beforehand, but this is the one I'm going to choose to post next. So Merry Christmas, guys, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!